This is a carnivorous animal being fed by a bird. The support, the love, the encouragement, this is what we expect human beings to do. If animals could do this, I believe human beings will do far much more better. Another video coming up is a young Zambian boy. We met this guy who makes a living. Can you imagine how the gymnastic strength this guy has? And this is Olympic period. If he had been given that little encouragement, if he had been given that little help, this guy could have done better than Max Whitlock. He could have done better than Lewis, and he could have done better than even Simone Biles. But he makes less than $1 every day on this. These two faces, I know one of them is called Mohammed and the other guy is Hassan. Now, they were born twins, or they are twins. They were separated when they were just 5 years old. One was brought here, had a maximum support, maximum encouragement, and one, unfortunately, wasn't. And this is what they turned out to be today. One became a quadruple Olympic gold medalist, and the other one has a stall somewhere in Mogadishu on the streets. That's why we want this support. That's why we want this encouragement for the African children, because we know the African children need it. Not all, but the indigent and the disadvantaged ones. Talking about AFRICYEF today, we'll be looking about a few things, talk about the beginning, how it all started. Then we look at some statistics. Then talk about Africa, how you can be part of this project, how you can support us, and certain things we intend to do and what we are doing currently. Yeah, some of you will be wondering who is on that, who is that on the picture there. That was my growing up days in Africa, in a very rural area. I had fantastic parents who were very encouraging, who supported me, very loving, who tried as much as they could to provide the best they thought was good enough for us then. And it was awesome. And that was where the thought, the desire, the plan for AFRICYEF all started. Growing up then, I normally see all these, some of them poor children, normally see some of them the sick children. I always ask this question, why are they not being taken to school? Why are the sick guys not being taken to the hospital? And my late mom used to tell me, Henry, that person could be you. And one day my dad told me, Henry, everybody expects somebody to do something. In the end, nobody does that thing. So that stuck with me. And I felt one day I will be a source of help to these indigent African children, these sick children who need our support. But because of poor government and corrupt practices in the country, they don't have them. And fortunately enough, I was lucky to meet a team of very talented and very passionate trustee members whom we all work together, and we've been able to achieve as much as we can. If you look at Africa, the whole world, we have over 264 million children and youths who are out of school now. They don't have the opportunity to go to school. And if you look at it, it's about the population of Mexico and Russia together. You can imagine two huge countries having the children, the whole population being equivalent to the number of children who cannot afford to go to school. That tells us that we need to double up in our support. We need to double up in our help in any way we can. About 124 million of them are children and adolescents. We have that dream that one day Africa will still have the land that flows with honey and milk. Demographically, Africa is the world's youngest continent. It is the world's second largest and the second most populous continent. Yes. It's also projected that in the next 35 years, 2 billion babies will be born in Africa. Is good, fantastic, is good news. Now, by 2040, 40%, about 2050, 40% of the world's children will all live in Africa. And that's why the legendary Bill Gates said, African children or African youth could be a source of special dynamism. Therefore, what do we need to do? We need to give them the encouragement they need. We need to give them every support that we can in any way possible. They need it, and if we can, we have to, as much as possible, provide all these. Unfortunately, the great African continent has the top poorest countries in the world. Africa is the world's poorest and the most underdeveloped continent, and produces just 2.5% of the global GDP. 2.5% is what comes from Africa. And this is a land that has the most fertile, the land that is most fertile, we have the rainforest, we have the fantastic environmental conditions, but unfortunately, we don't have any economic development as it should be. Almost 40% of African adults are illiterate. It's unfortunate. And 2/3 of them are women. Adult illiteracy in countries like Benin, Burkina Faso, Niger are almost below 50%. Something has to be done. Something must be done. And that is why AFRICYEF, we've come up to change, to give these people a new lease of life, to make them understand that, yes, they could have education. Some people could say, what is the need for education? The likes of Bill Gates were all dropouts. Yes, they could be. But we've heard of dropouts, college and university dropouts who became millionaires, multi-billionaires, and so on. But who has ever heard of a primary school or a secondary school dropout who became a multi-billionaire? Even if any, there will be very few. Therefore, we believe it is the right of every African child, irrespective of the race, the gender, the financial status, to have access to basic education. And that is what we're working towards. And that is what we believe, with your support, we will be able to achieve that. I always quote Bill Gates, maybe because of my background in IT. He's a guy that says to fully exploit Africa's potential, its young people need to be given every opportunity to thrive. And he said we are human beings who must take action. And we have to decide now, because this unique moment won't last forever. We must clear away the obstacles that are standing in young people's way. And what are those obstacles? They could be poverty, it could be disability, it could be sickness, it could be the gender, it could be anything. Now we have to remove that. It doesn't cost us an arm and a leg to do that, but we will be able to do it. All we need is concentration, focus, and desire to do that. We will get there. Now, after a long time, AFRICYEF decided to look at what are the barriers to education, what are the problems we have with that. Then found out that school distance, violence, there's massive violence in Africa. In Nigeria, Boko Haram has led to the internal displacement of over 3.5 million people. And unfortunately, 70% of these people are children. They've been displaced, they won't go to school. Not at all. And they don't even have access. It's when you are alive and you're strong and you're healthy that you think about going to school, or if you have the opportunity. Unfortunately, these 70% of the 3.5 internally displaced Nigerians will not have access to education if nothing is done. And that is what AFRICYEF wants to do. We have forced early marriages, gender discrimination, poverty, child labor, disability, high fees, early pregnancy. We also have poor governance. It is very rife in African countries. A country, I always give instance with Nigeria, a country like Nigeria where a mayor councillor of a local government area comes to the United Kingdom, to London, to own fleets of houses. That is the lowest level, just like talking about your councillor here, having fleets of houses outside the country is so bad. Now, why AFRICYEF? Some people might ask, there are so many charities all over the world. There are so many charities in Africa. There are so many charities in the UK. Then why did we come to have AFRICYEF? I have to tell you that what we're trying to do is we want to build something like UNICEF for Africa. That is the strategy. I remember when Herbert Hoover, thank you. I remember when Herbert Hoover, the 31st American president, came up with the idea of UNICEF. This was how he all started. Now, we have found out that UNICEF is a bit it's not favoring Africans. Therefore, we need to create something for Africans. And that is why we've come up with the idea of AFRICYEF. Now, most charities, we've done our studies, we found that most charities spend over 50% of their income, of the grants they receive, of the donations, on overheads, on administrative costs. But with AFRICYEF, all our income, all our fundings, all our the little donations we get, and the contributions from the trustees goes 100% into providing this help, into providing this support. And we are touching the children. We are touching the lives. We are impacting on them. And we are very happy that what we are doing is reaching out to them. The passion, all the trustees have this passion. We have the passion to deliver help. We have the passion to touch lives. We have the passion to be a source of hope to those who think there is no hope. We have the passion to go the extra mile and the gumption to touch anybody who desires to go to school. We don't run AFRICYEF as a profession. We run, though it is run by professionals. We don't receive any salaries, and we are not looking at making anything from AFRICYEF, but we want to continue to provide this help. AFRICYEF is professionally run. We all have professionals. We are professionals from different areas of life who provide these services. We are experienced. We've been there. Some of us were born in rural areas. We grew up with people who were super intelligent, but because of resources, they couldn't go to school, who were even more intelligent than us, but they cannot get to where we are today because there was no support for them. For our vision, we want to make sure we alleviate and hence contribute to eradicating illiteracy, poverty, and diseases, and to empower the African children and youth for the challenges of tomorrow. Our objects are also roundabout that, but the most important thing is that we now decided to condense our objects, our aims, our objectives into what we call the 4 cardinal points of AFRICYEF, which are the Back to School program. We have the Computer for All project, the Best Mathematics and Science Students Awards, and the Socio-Economic and Health projects. I'll just take them briefly. In the Back to School program, we work with village heads in rural areas to find out those children who should go to school, but because of one reason or the other, they are not able to go to school. We then support them back to school, provide them with educational materials. We ensure that they go to school and they acquire the basic education, which is their right. Computer for All project, we know that the world is becoming a digital area now. Everything is going on the computers. Therefore, we provide computers to youths, to families, and also to schools to encourage the children not just to be consumers, to also start from early age to produce what they can in the computing. We have the Best Mathematics and Science students. We wanted to create healthy rivalry among students, mainly in the areas of mathematics and sciences. Therefore, we instituted these awards. Go to secondary schools, present the awards to the children, and encourage them to do the best they can in these subjects. We have the Socio-Economic and Health project, where we have partnered with, we know one of the major problems little children have is related to their eyesight. They might not be able to say that. We've partnered with an eye clinic in Lagos. Every child that we present to them, we introduce to them, is treated free of charge, and frames and glasses are provided to these children. We have some children also on scholarships with us. About 2 of them are currently on scholarship. AFRICYEF so far, currently we are supporting 500 children back to school every year. We fully equip the computer labs of 2 secondary schools in Africa, provided them with laptops. They are all using that now. They're very happy. We've given over 50 computers and laptops distributed to families, both in the UK and in different parts of Africa. We have offered 2 scholarships. We've offered scholarships to 2 pupils from their primary to their secondary education. Currently, we educationally adopted all the children in Future Leaders Orphanage. We will sponsor those children all through from their primary education to their secondary to make sure they have the basic education, which is their right. We have a few ongoing projects and a few new projects we want to embark on. We want to make sure that AFRICYEF supports 1 1,000 children at least every year back to school. And that's going to cost us about £7,000. We are planning on building 2 secondary schools in 2 rural villages. We are building 2 school libraries in 2 rural villages. We've already discovered these secondary schools, and plans are also on the way to do this. And this is going to cost us about £22,500. We have a remote village where children have to walk over 10 kilometers for them to have access to nursery school or even secondary school. Therefore, we've planned to build them a nursery school. And this project has started, but because of funds, we have a little delay there. But we believe before the end of next year, we would be able to achieve these. We're also constructing a borehole for a rural community where most children there are suffering from waterborne diseases. Now, we decided to help them out by constructing water borehole for them. We don't just stop at providing these services. We also carry out monitoring and evaluation processes to find out the outcome, the impact of what we are doing. Regularly, we speak to these children. We speak to their health teachers. It is always very fulfilling when you call the teachers and they put the children and they talk to you on phone conference. Then we monitor their progress. We found out that most of the children we've been able to rehabilitate back to school are now doing so well. Some of them are getting up to 5%, top 5% in their classes. That was quite encouraging. We have what we call AFRICYEF Vanguards. Who are these? These are children in the universities, in the colleges, who come together to help in disseminating the principles of AFRICYEF. They speak and they preach against examination malpractices. They talk about the FGM, female genital mutilation. They preach against that. They are also like our foot soldiers, talking against corruption. We have AFRICYEF ambassadors also all over the world, people who dedicated their time to help us in our researches, help us also in sourcing for these children who need our help. We have also regular reports from the teachers, quite helpful. Now, how could you be, or how can you be a part of AFRICYEF? There's so many ways you can be a part of AFRICYEF. Can start by praying for us. I remember this great man who led this country during the war, Winston Churchill. He said, we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. There is no two ways about that. That's a fact. If you touch a life, it's very reassuring when you have a child, when you have a student, when you help a student to go back to school, and the student calls you and says, thank you, I am now back to school. I mean, if I can hear that just once every year, I will be very happy with that. And I will thank God for giving me the opportunity to do that. You can be an AFRICYEF ambassador. You could also join AFRICYEF Club. You could be a volunteer in different things you can do. From our website, you go to the volunteer page, and you could volunteer, come up with some ideas. You can also donate to the good cause. We're on PayPal. You can also donate from the AFRICYEF website. We have CAF Online. We accept checks payable to AFRICYEF. Another fantastic way of raising money is we've now partnered with a company called Easy Funding or Easy Fundraising. Now, having partnered with this company, if you look at this leaflet and register with them, every shopping you do online, AFRICYEF will get 1%. It's not going to affect the cost of your purchases. Every shopping you do online, AFRICYEF receives a minimum of 1%. That's a fantastic way we can raise money and then reach more children. We also accept books, computers, we accept clothing materials and educational materials. We accept them all. £4 a month, we see a child through school. £4 a month. £4 a month could see a child through primary school, providing them books, pens, school uniforms, and so on. £7.50 every month could be used to rehabilitate a youth who is involved in drugs and gang activities. And we are preaching. We constantly preach against drugs. We preach against, and that is what our AFRICYEF vanguards are actively involved in. We preach against cultism, we preach against gangs, and we preach against female genital mutilation, and it is quite a successful one at that. What can I say? On behalf of over 500 children who can now go to school every day, who had no hope of going to school, who are from the very remote of the remotest areas. I came from a very remote area, but it is not as remote as those areas where we're helping these children. The 15 families who now have computers at home, more than 35 youths who now have access to computers, to laptops. These youths who have nothing doing, and we give them laptops. So happy they have been. And that has now, some of them are now into web design. If you look at our website, one of them also helped us, they contributed to the development of our website. Awesome. It's encouraging. The 2 children who lost their parents are now on full scholarship from primary to secondary school. The 2 secondary schools with fully functional computer laboratories, and all those wonderful children at Future Leaders Orphanage, Ilaro in Ogun State. We can only say thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your support. We pray you have a nice time. God bless you.